Hello mga kababayan, welcome to my channel. Welcome to Laruan ni Obi-Wan. For this afternoon's review, we are going to take a look at X-Men ArchAngel. So this is a release by Toy Biz and was sold in 2004 or was mass marketed in 2004. So for the front of the packaging, we have the character, but we have a big image of Wolverine. So aren't we supposed to have the main character, the one being sold on the card art? But at least that is still a cool picture of the Wolverine. So let's take a look at the back of the packaging. So the box art includes once again a big image of Wolverine. We only have a small image of the Archangel down here, and we have a diagram of the wing accessory of the Archangel, how to manipulate that wing accessory. On board also for this line, we had several of the characters or action figures being sold that time. So two versions of the Wolverine, and we have the Cyclops figure and the Gambit figure. This is a figure that I am still wanting to have in my collection, specifically this 2004 release of the Cyclops. Anyway, we have the Archangel on board, so let's take this figure out of packaging and enjoy this toy. Once you take this figure out of packaging, actually you are greeted by two trays. So one holding the Archangel figure and the other holding the massive wing that comes with this set. Let's do a quick 360 of this action figure so we could take a look at the details that are present on it. So as for height of the figure, this stands flat at 6 inches. So let's compare this Archangel figure with other release of the Marvel Legends action figures that we have on board in our collection. So we have the Archangel figure with the more recent releases of Marvel characters that we have on board in our collection. So it quite looks dated compared to the other figures, but once you put on the wings on this action figure, it's going to really shine. Of course, the gimmick is going to set it back quite a bit, but with regards to detail, it could go toe to toe with these action figures, and it is still good to have in your collection. Let's talk about the general detail of the figure. As you could compare with the other action figures that I placed beside this figure, actually this looks really lanky or thin. Somehow that is because of the articulation points that are present on this figure, especially those ball on the hips and how the thigh or the entire leg is constructed. This action figure actually sports a very unique physique, which you could possibly observe in road cyclists. So for road cyclists, you really have very thin physique, and the length of the arms and the length of the legs are really obvious with a very thin outline for the body. But generally speaking, as to length of arms and the rest of the figure combined, actually it is just proportion. So the muscle tones are just that exaggeratedly thin, but with regards to detail and the paint, it is really nicely done. So good job on Toy Biz for this specific action figure. For the back of the figure, of course, we expect that we're going to have a wing attachment, but we are presented with a very clean hole or attachment point that for the accessory. And take a look at all of the back details on the paint on this figure. Really clean, nicely executed. So as for the lines, really clean lines, no overlays or overlaps or overwashes. And as to the color, the paint, the red paint or orange paint or whatever hue that is, actually is the same all throughout the body. And for the front of the figure, as you could notice on this abdominal crunch, if you were not really observing this figure, you thought that the abdominal crunch is not present, but it is there because of how nicely done it is. So actually you won't be able to see the inner workings of the figure because of that really fine line. We don't have any gaps in the mold. Okay, so let's move on to the other features. The other thing that I also like is how the face is done. So the paint is really nicely done on this figure. We still have mold of the ears pointing out, even if we know that that is a mask, but we still have that mold on the ears. As for how clean it is really done, really nice. I'm really satisfied that I have this action figure on board. So let's discuss articulation points, because the articulation points are really also good on this action figure. Since we have a winged figure, a flight figure, how is the head tilt on this unit? So look at that. And with the ab crunch, really clean. So as for the front bend, we don't have much of a hump. For the back bend, that is the articulation point that really suffers, because this diaphragm cut is actually designed more for the back bends. So we have a cut on the waistline for rotation, and somehow, of course, that is a given that once you move the waistline of the figure, that is going to disrupt the panel line or the pattern on the uniform. Okay, so as for going back to head articulation, really nice and smooth head articulation on this action figure, and we don't have any creaking or any looseness on the head sculpt. Actually, it is really nice and smooth. It feels like it is oiled. But with regards to quality, I'm really surprised that the joints on this figure are really nice and tight and not wobbly. So let's move towards the shoulder articulation. So we have an extra articulation point once you move the entire arms to the side like this. So we have this point over here, this point I mean. Let me take out my pointer, my chopstick, so that this exact point. So as for the ball of the shoulder, so really nice articulation point, really smooth too, and we still have that hinge, even if we have that some kind of butterfly joint, but it is not a butterfly joint, it is more for raising the arms. Okay, so moving towards the biceps of the figure, so nice muscle lines, actually really nicely done. We have circular movement on the bicep, 2 points of articulation for the elbow. We have an articulation or circular point for the forearm, and on the hands, we have a hinge for the fingers, and we have a hinge for the wrist. So moving towards the leg area, we have a ball articulation for articulation of the thigh, and that ball also aids in several points of articulation for the entire leg. So it's just not for circular movement of the thigh, but overall improves the articulation points still to further poses. So moving towards the knee, we have 2 points of articulation for the knee, and that is a really nice bend on the figure. So for the foot, moving towards the foot, so we have shin rotation, we have a hinge for the foot, and we have a hinge for the toes. So this is a really nicely done figure and really nicely articulated, and even if this was released in 2004 and just taken out of packaging right this moment of doing this review, I'm really surprised at how those points of articulation are still intact and not wobbly. So let's move on to the next detail of this action figure. So ArchAngel won't be an ArchAngel or an angel without the wing set. So let's take a look at the details on the wing first. So from the far side of the review table, so this is actually the back side. Look at that really impressive spread. So this is from the attachment side. So we have the attachment point for the back of the figure, and actually the wings is swept in a U pattern this way. So unlike your traditional designed action figures right now of the Falcon, wherein the wing set actually is more straighter than this, because the hinges are designed to bend or fold towards the figure, but this is designed to bend and fold just sideways. So when you take a look at the hinge, so the hinge is just designed to fold the wings this way and wrap it to the back of the figure just that way. So we don't have any capacity for this wing set to really cover the figure. But does that really matter? Well, it depends on the action figure collector, but personally it doesn't matter to me. But what matters is the design of the wing. So for a 2004 release, take a look at all of the details that is on this. Plus, it does not feel cheap. Unlike the Build-A-Figure of Falcon, wherein the wing set that you have to collect from the other figures, and once assembled, it really feels and looks flimsy. This is made of nice material. So with black designs on the fringes of the tips of the steel feathers on this wing set. And actually we have still this missile firing effects. So we have the missiles on board, so there's 2 of them. So let's put this wing to the side over here, because we're still going to measure that. So the wings actually, the missiles on this figure, the springs are not on the backpack of the figure on this portion. It is actually on the missile itself, which is really Okay, because take a look at that. So with this gimmick, something that came out in 2004, of course, this is going to be more springy once you take this out before in 2004. But right now, actually, it just won't fire as hard or as far. But as for gimmick, I really like the thought that we have an extension spring like this, so possibly giving us that impression that this is feathers being shot from the wing itself. So we have two of them, and actually when you attach this to the wing set, actually I would think that this is an additional propulsion system for the ArchAngel, because just like the Rocketeer, we have two propulsion systems. So of course we know that the wings on Angel was taken out, the biological wings, and was replaced with these mechanical wings. So what I like to do about these two propulsion systems that I was mentioning, because we have those two holes on the back. Actually, you could still stick two gimmicks like this on the back of or on the rear of this general portion of the backpack, and somehow give him that kind of propulsion system, additional propulsion system. So it isn't just the flapping of the wings that makes him go forward, backward, sideways, but it's going to be these two systems too. So really nice. Okay, so for the total length of the wings, so actually if you take out your tape measure, if you're going to do straight up this way, that's going to be 14.5, but if you're going to line the tape measure, it is actually more, something like 18 inches on this wing set. So really nice feature on this accessory for the ArchAngel figure. Okay, so how does this wing set attach to the back of the ArchAngel figure? So take a note of how the hole is on the figure, on the back of the figure. So it looks like an M203 style grenade character design, the hole I mean. And the importance of that actually is when you take this portion of the wing, actually we still have a articulation point on that attachment point. So still a really nice touch for Toy Beast to add that feature. And we have a mold on the back, so it really nicely contours to the back of the figure. So when you actually snap it on the back of the figure, so this is the first time that we're doing it, and it's really tight because it's new. So, and that hinge is really fighting me. Okay, come on, there you go. So as you could see, that is a really nice fit on the back of the figure. So even if he really has that humongous system on the back, actually it still really looks cool. And of course once you make a sweep of the wing like this, really impressive. And now I really appreciate that extra articulation points for the wing of this for the shoulders of this figure, because he could do this kind of motion, and since we have a hinge for the hands of this figure for the fingers, that it looks like a really nice pose. Now once you attach the wing to this figure, that is going to be the thing. So it's going to be really top heavy, and the weight of the wing is really going to stress out the diaphragm articulation point. So a stand is something that you would need with this action figure, possibly one that is produced or is included in packaging for this DC Multiverse action figure, especially for action figure characters done by McFarlane Toys with flight capability. So those figures comes with stands, so I think that is a good recommendation for display for this figure. Now have the ArchAngel figure on flight mode. So hovering mode in support would be a 1:6 scale figure stand. So just an idea of how to pose this figure in your collection. If you don't have a stand for this action figure, a flight stand I mean, it is still possible to display it in your shelf. So still in a standing position like this, if you don't have enough space vertically to display this in a flight pose, you could still make this stand with your other action figures, and actually you won't need a supporting device because the wings actually works already as a support system for this figure, because the wings are weightier than the figure itself. So from the side, that is how it's going to look. From the other side, so it's really a weighty piece, but from this angle you could still marvel at your display of this ArchAngel figure. That is if you have it still in your collection. So this ends my review for this 2004 release of ArchAngel. If you like this review, like, comment, and subscribe, and see you on the next action figure review.